Have you ever thought love only blooms under perfect skies and flawless timing? What if I told you that sometimes love begins not with fireworks, but with silence? This is not your typical fairy tale. He was a cold-hearted billionaire, used to control and contracts. She was a brilliant, guarded woman, with a secret she protected her entire life. What was meant to be one night, just one mistake, turned into something neither of them could forget. But when he learned the truth about her, his world shattered. And for the first time, he fell, not from power, not from pride, but to his knees. Because of love. Stay with us, because this story will touch a part of your heart that still believes in redemption, in second chances, and in the quiet, powerful love that refuses to let go. Amelia Carter stood at the altar in a flawless wedding dress, its beauty stitched not from dreams, but duty. Across from her was William Bennett, a man so composed, so powerful he could command cities with a single decision. But he didn't command her heart. Not yet. They weren't marrying for love. This was an alliance, a merger, a ceasefire between empires. The Carters and Bennets had long decided their fate, sealed with land deals and handshakes. What followed was not a honeymoon, but a contract, shared penthouse, coordinated appearances, no intimacy, no interference. And yet, beneath the surface of their cold agreement, something unspoken began to stir. Not passion, not yet, but attention. A flicker, the kind that lives in glances that last a beat too long, in footsteps that echo louder than they should in lonely hallways. In public, they smiled in perfect sync. At home, they lived like strangers, 2 bedrooms, 2 routines. But somehow, neither could ignore the other. Amelia poured herself into her work. She won lawsuits, earned awards, and proved she didn't need a man to define her. William buried himself in spreadsheets, boardrooms, and numbers. To him, Amelia was a fixed variable, predictable, easy to manage. But then came a night that would quietly change everything. It started with a storm, a charity gala, a routine photo op. But fate had its own plans. Roads flooded, trees blocked the path home. The only option, shelter at the Bennett family's quiet country house nearby. For the first time in months, Amelia and William rode together. No assistants, no staff, just rain, silence, and memories neither dared speak of. The country house was nothing like their cold penthouse. It was quiet. Wooden floors creaked under their steps. Wind whispered through old curtains. And when the power went out, William lit a single candle, the glow softening his edges. They sat on the couch. A bottle of wine. A single touch, a graze of fingers, set something alight. "We're stuck here," he said, with a dry chuckle. "Stuck," Amelia replied, "or forced to face what we've been avoiding every day." There was no seduction, no passion play, just honesty. And finally, surrender. Their kiss was not wild. It was slow, careful, like asking permission with every breath. That night, wrapped in his arms on the old couch, Amelia felt safe for the first time in years. But when morning came, the other side of the bed was cold, empty. William had vanished. Back in the city, things returned to normal, but not really. Something had shifted. Amelia felt it in the silence. In the polite distance, William restored. She wanted to ask what the night had meant, but pride held her back. Until the divorce papers came, they sat at opposite ends of the apartment. A silent war. Amelia opened the envelope with shaking hands. A clean request for divorce. No note, no conversation, just legal phrasing and blank signature lines. "Is this serious?" she asked, confronting William. He couldn't meet her eyes. "We got carried away. That night, it was a lapse, a mistake." "No," she whispered. "It wasn't." That night, she didn't cry. She just lay awake, wondering how something so real could be erased so easily. A week later, she moved out. No confrontation, just absence and silence. Back at work, she buried herself in cases, but her body betrayed her. Nausea, exhaustion, the smell of coffee turned her stomach. Until finally, one morning, a pregnancy test whispered the truth. She was pregnant and alone, but not broken. Amelia stood in the bathroom, the test in her hand, trembling. 2 pink lines, clear, undeniable. She was pregnant. She didn't cry. She didn't smile. She just stood still. Because what grew inside her wasn't just a life. It was a truth that couldn't be ignored anymore. She thought about that night in the country house, the warmth, the stillness, the way William had held her like she mattered. Then she thought about the silence afterward, the divorce papers, the emptiness. She didn't want his money. She didn't even want his approval. She just needed clarity, closure. So she called him. They met in her office. He wore the same tailored suit, the same polished shoes. But there was something different in his eyes. Something unsure, vulnerable. Without a word, she handed him the ultrasound photo. His face went pale. "Is this—" "I'm pregnant," she said calmly. "I'm not asking you for anything. I just thought you should know." He stared at the photo like it was a bomb about to detonate. "I'm going through with this," she continued, "with or without you. This child is not a project. It's not a line item in your schedule. If you're only capable of love through control, walk away now." For a moment, William said nothing. Then he exhaled and whispered, "I don't know what to say." "Then say nothing. Just listen." But he did speak. Not rehearsed, not calculated, just honest. "I was afraid," he said. "After that night, I felt exposed. So I did what I always do. I ran." Amelia's voice was steady, but her eyes burned. "And now?" "I don't want to run anymore." From that day on, William began showing up, not with flowers or grand speeches, but with presence. He arrived 10 minutes early to the next doctor's appointment. He sat silently in the waiting room, hands folded, eyes lowered, waiting for her. When she walked out, surprised to see him there, he only said, "I thought maybe you'd like some company." He didn't force his way in. He just stayed close, available, intentional. At home, she found small signs: a bottle of water in her work bag, a note on the fridge reminding her to take her vitamins, a container of sliced fruit, her favorite. No pressure, no expectations, just care. Then one afternoon, he arrived with an envelope. She opened it cautiously. The divorce papers, shredded. "No more contracts," he said. only choices. Amelia didn't say anything, but something inside her softened. They didn't become a couple overnight. There were no kisses, no candlelight. But there was something else, something steadier. He walked her to appointments, waited without complaint, Googled remedies for nausea, bought snacks, didn't talk too much, didn't talk too little. One evening, after a rough checkup, he sat beside her on the clinic steps. She was pale, tired. He handed her a piece of mint gum. Might help with nausea. You been pregnant before? Number just did 2 hours of research. She laughed, a real laugh, for the first time in weeks. You're really trying, huh? I am, even if I fumble along the way. And he did fumble. He got things wrong. But he never stopped trying. And slowly, Amelia let her guard down. There was no dramatic moment when Amelia and William fell in love. No sweeping music, no tearful confessions, only silence. And in that silence, presence. One quiet Saturday, William appeared with a crib catalogue, laying the pages out on Amelia's living room carpet. Any of these match us? He asked awkwardly. She raised an eyebrow. You mean the baby's room? He grinned. No. I mean this mess. Whatever it is we're building. She chuckled, pointing to a simple wooden crib. This one. Nothing royal, just peaceful. Perfect, he said, jotting it down like a man sealing a deal. That night, Amelia returned home to warm tea on the table, a cozy blanket folded on the armchair, and a new pair of socks next to a note. Noticed your feet were swelling. She didn't respond, but she sat there in the quiet and let herself cry. Not from sadness, but because, for the first time in a long time, someone was paying attention. And that changed everything. Soon it became normal to see William sitting quietly across the room while Amelia worked. He didn't interrupt. He didn't demand space. He just existed beside her. When she fell asleep on the office couch, he covered her with a blanket. When her tea grew cold, he replaced it. No words, just intention. And intention was everything. One rainy morning, William showed up with a bag of tools and a sheepish smile. I want to build the crib today, he said, before I lose my nerve. They spent the day surrounded by screws and mismatched parts. The manual was terribly translated. They argued, laughed, rebuilt, argued again. The crib turned out crooked, but it stood. It's staying like that, Amelia said. Our baby will sleep tilted, but with style, he added. That night, William moved toward the door to leave, but hesitated. Do you want to stay? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. He looked at her, surprised. Are you sure? She nodded. No pressure. Just stay. He didn't rush into her room. He didn't try to reclaim the past. He simply sat beside her on the couch, and together they breathed in silence. Later, when she climbed the stairs, she left the door to her bedroom slightly open. She said nothing, but he understood. That night, for the first time since the storm, they slept under the same roof, not as strangers, but as something else, something fragile, tender, and real. In the weeks that followed, William didn't declare love. He didn't push for a title. But she found his cologne on the bathroom shelf. She left a space for him there. They didn't talk about it. They didn't need to. The night came quietly. Amelia woke with a strange pressure deep in her body. Not pain, yet, but something primal. Something real. She sat up, breathing slowly, her hands resting on her belly. The house was still. William had been sleeping in the guest room lately, giving her space in the final stretch of pregnancy. She didn't want to wake him. But when she walked downstairs, already dressed with her hospital bag in hand, she found him in the kitchen, standing, waiting. His voice was calm. "It's happening." She nodded. He didn't panic, didn't rush, just took the keys and said, "Let's go." In the car, his hand hovered between the seats. She took it when the first contraction hit, squeezing so tightly he winced, but never let go. At the hospital, everything was a blur. Machines beeped, nurses moved quickly. The pain came in waves, crushing, sharp, relentless. William never left her side. When she screamed, he whispered, "You're doing amazing." When she sobbed, "I can't," he whispered back, "You can. You already have." And then, after hours of pain and sweat and fear, a cry filled the room. A loud, beautiful cry. The doctor laid their son on Amelia's chest, and the world fell quiet. She looked up at William, breathless and raw. He was crying, silently. "Thank you," he whispered, "for not doing this alone." The days after the birth blurred into one long, sleepless miracle. Bottles, diapers, midnight feedings, cries, giggles, tears. The house, once cold and curated, now overflowed with life. Blankets on the couch, toys on the floor, bottles in the sink, and always their baby, wrapped in the softest blue, sleeping on William's chest. They still didn't call it love, still no labels, but something had shifted. One morning, Amelia found a note on the fridge. "You're stronger than you think, and more beautiful than you know." Another day, he brought her tea the exact way she liked it. No questions asked. They weren't just surviving. They were learning to live again. Together. William learned how to hold the baby with one arm while warming a bottle with the other. He messed up a dozen times. Amelia laughed, truly laughed, for the first time in weeks. "You're getting better," she teased. "I'm becoming a multitasking man. You still can't rock him and check your email at the same time." One day at a time. And that's what they did. Took it one quiet, imperfect day at a time. Until, one chilly evening, she found herself sitting on the floor near the crib, wrapped in a blanket, staring at their son. William sat down beside her. "What is it?" he asked softly. She didn't answer right away. "Just thinking how everything's changed." "Scary?" "Yes," she whispered. "But also comforting." And then, slowly, without ceremony, without fear, she reached for his hand. And he held it like it was the most natural thing in the world. It had been 3 months since the storm. since the night that changed everything. One grey afternoon, William came in from the kitchen with 2 cups of tea, one already sweetened, exactly the way Amelia liked it. He handed it to her without asking. She looked up from her report and smiled. A small, worn-out smile. The kind that hides exhaustion, but also holds warmth. He sat beside her on the carpet, watching their baby sleep on the rug between them. Then he said quietly, "Do you know what today is? Monday?" He shook his head. 3 months since that night. The storm. The country house. She closed the report. "You remember?" "Like it was yesterday," he said. "I even remember the wine." He stood, walked to the sideboard, and returned with a small box. Her heart froze. "Before you say anything," he began, kneeling, not dramatically, not formally, just kneeling in front of her. "This isn't a proposal." He opened the box. Inside, a simple silver ring. No diamonds, no sparkle. Just polished steel, like a whisper. "It's not about promises," he said. "It's just a symbol that I choose to stay, not because of duty, but because I want to." Amelia stared at it, silent. "You don't have to wear it," he added quickly. "Not today, not ever. I just wanted you to know. The man who handed you those divorce papers doesn't exist anymore." She took the box in her hand, ran her fingers over the cool metal. "It's beautiful," she whispered. "Simple. Real." She didn't put it on. She didn't have to, because something inside her had already said yes. Time didn't rush after that. They didn't label their relationship. They still slept in separate rooms. But love doesn't always come with labels. Sometimes it arrives in the quietest ways. In a cup of tea, in folded baby clothes, in a shared glance when the baby finally falls asleep. One night, Amelia opened the drawer where she'd hidden the ring box. She took it out, held it in her palm, and slowly she slipped it onto her finger. Not as someone saying, "I do," but as someone saying, "I'm still here." She walked into the kitchen where William was preparing a bottle. He looked up, saw the ring, said nothing, just smiled. And that smile was everything. Because a love that grows quietly doesn't need grand gestures. It just needs to be lived. Later that evening, they sat together on the couch, their baby between them. No words, just soft breathing, just the warmth of 2 hands finding each other in the dark. And for the first time in a long, long time, Amelia didn't feel like she was surviving. She felt like she had come home. The house was no longer quiet. It pulsed with life. Tiny footsteps, baby cries, scattered toys, late-night lullabies, and unexpected giggles echoing through the halls. Gone were the spotless glass counters and sterile stillness. Now, Amelia's once pristine penthouse smelled of formula and baby powder, and the couch was covered in tiny socks and soft blankets. And she wouldn't have it any other way. William became a father, not by instinct, but by intention. He burned bottles, confused baby wipes with diaper cream, rocked the baby awkwardly until he got the rhythm right, and never once did he complain. At 3 a.m., when their son cried, William got up first. "You need sleep," he'd whisper, holding the baby with one arm and warming a bottle with the other. One morning, Amelia came downstairs and found him on the couch, the baby asleep on his chest, coffee in his free hand, dark circles under his eyes. "You've been up all night," she murmured. "So have you," he said softly. "Now we're even." She ran her fingers through his hair. No hesitation, no filter, no fear. And in that moment, she realized something had changed. They weren't just co-parents. They were becoming something else. One chilly night, Amelia sat on the bedroom floor, staring at the crib. William joined her without a word, wrapped a blanket around them both. "Sometimes," she whispered, "what scares us most is exactly what we need." He nodded, resting his head against hers. They didn't need to say, "I love you." They were already living it. Later that week, William brought home a framed photo, the three of them laughing in the park, unposed, unfiltered. "I thought we needed a real picture," he said. She hung it in the living room. Every time she passed it, her heart softened. Not because it was perfect, but because it was theirs. And then, one night, after a bottle, a bath, and 1,000 yawns, Amelia slipped into bed next to William. Their baby slept peacefully in the crib nearby. She reached for William's hand. No words, just fingers lacing together, slowly. And in that silence, she whispered something so soft he almost missed it. "Today, I choose to stay too." There was no happily ever after. Just still here, still choosing, still loving. And in the world they had built, imperfect, quiet, real, that was more than enough.